we do need to have an honest, factual, and truthful conversation, regardless of political party or affiliation, about what led to our failures in Afghanistan.
Hello, my name is Dan Caldwell, and I'm the Senior Advisor for Concerned Veterans for America. Today, we are honored to be joined by Congresswoman Nancy Mace from South Carolina's 1st Congressional District to have a discussion about war powers and Americans' foreign policy. Congresswoman Mace represents South Carolina's 1st Congressional District, which my fellow Marines might know as the home of Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Parris Island. Congresswoman Mace has been a strong advocate of restoring Congress's role in matters of war and peace and ensuring that we have a better foreign policy that prioritizes America's national interests and safety. Congresswoman Mace, thank you for joining us today.
And thank you for having me.
So starting off, obviously the last 3 weeks we've seen a lot of terrible images and events coming out of Afghanistan. And you've talked a lot about how the chaos in Afghanistan is a result of bipartisan failures over the last 20 years. And obviously the last 20 days have been terrible, and there needs to be a thorough after action about what occurred in Afghanistan. But do you also think it's important that we look at the last 20 years of the war, not just the last 20 days?
Oh, of course. I mean, the last 20 days was absolute chaos to catastrophe. This is a human rights catastrophe as well. And we left American citizens behind. I mean, I am daring anyone to find one American citizen who elects to stay in Afghanistan, and in Afghanistan controlled by the Taliban. And I can't find that person, and nobody else can as well. We suffered the worst losses in Afghanistan from our exit since 2011. And when we've seen it in other places, we had a phased out withdrawal in Iraq in 2011, phase out over time. And when we're able to do that, we're much more successful. Instead, this thing was rushed and it was done hastily. And we left billions of dollars of equipment. We left American citizens, not to mention the Afghans that were willing to take a bullet for our country over the last 20 years serving with our soldiers on the ground. And we have dozens of countries around the world who are willing to take Afghans in, take refugees in as well. And these people that we've evacuated, it was an enormous evacuation, over 100,000 Afghans, but those people haven't been vetted. We left behind many that had already applied or even been approved for the SIVs that didn't get out. The majority of those didn't get out. And so, the exit strategy for me, from what I could see, was a press release at the end of April. The vast majority of Americans wanted out of Afghanistan, myself included. The process for how we got out of there has been enormously problematic because of the timing, doing it in the middle of the peak fighting season for the Taliban. I think the timing of it and then the rushed nature of it. But if we look at the last 20 years, this war was started by a Republican administration and went on through 4 administrations, 2 Republican and 2 Democrat. And, we've weaponized everything in this country, from wearing masks and vaccinations to the border crisis, to COVID-19 crisis, to this crisis in Afghanistan. And people are very quick to point fingers, and there should be accountability. There should be responsibility on behalf of the cabinet and the administration and our leaders who I think made some very poor decisions in the exit. But this was not started by this administration, nor was it continued for 20 years by this administration. And so we do have to look back. Once this is all said and done and the dust settles, we do need to have an honest, factual, and truthful conversation, regardless of political party or affiliation, about what led to our failures in Afghanistan. And if we can't do that, if we're going to continue to politicize and weaponize this war for political gain, for political purposes, for winning elections, I think that's going to be really problematic for both sides. I don't want to take part in it. I want the American people to get the truth and get the facts and understand what we did wrong so we can learn from these lessons. This is not the first time we've left our equipment behind. I mean, go look at Syria, what we did there, and giving arms to the rebels and to other terrorists in the region. We've done that. We gave billions of dollars and pallets of cash to Iran. Iran is supposedly buying equipment and vehicles from the Taliban now. Are they using our cash to do it? I mean, we have a lot of lessons to learn over our operations in the Middle East over the last 20 years.
Well, I certainly hope we do learn those lessons so we don't repeat these mistakes again. I am a little pessimistic, but I'm hoping that you all and others in Congress who have been speaking out on these issues can help push that conversation in the right way.
Mhm.
Pivoting now to another issue you've been a leader on is the repeal of the 2002 authorization for use of military force. And this was the authorization for use of military force, or AUMF, which was
Mhm.
passed to authorize the invasion of Iraq. And
Mhm.
even though Saddam Hussein was overthrown in 2011, he was executed in 2006, the 2002 AUMF has remained on the books and Congress has not repealed it. There's now a path to passage. It passed the House with an overwhelming bipartisan vote. Again, you were a leader on that. It passed the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and there looks like there is enough votes to pass the Senate. Do you have a sense on what the timing of that's going to be? Is it likely that we'll see a repeal of the 2002 AUMF before the end of the year, or likely get folded into another bill like the NDAA?
Yeah, I'm not certain at this point. The Senate, I hope that the 2002 repeal gets folded, gets a vote in the Senate. It's hard to say right now because the Senate has a very busy calendar between now and the end of the year. And then the exit from Afghanistan has, pissed off Republicans and Democrats, particularly the Democrats who are war veterans who did serve in Afghanistan. And so it's hard to say what the effect of that might be on a repeal. Obviously, the 2002 AUMF and the 2001 AUMF, for that matter, they've been used in other instances, whether that's bombings in Africa, drone wars in Yemen. They've been abused, which is why I want to be one of the Republican leaders on the repeal of the 2002 AUMF and co-sponsored that bill with a handful of other Republicans and spoke on the floor on time given to me by the other side of the aisle. I feel like it's really important where we do get together and we are united that that we work together because parents don't get a say in these wars, and Congress really needs to have its war powers back. We need to utilize those or not have the decision-making authority because parents right now aren't getting a say whether their kid goes to war. And we've abused the AUMF, multiple AUMFs over the last several decades as an excuse to go to war in other areas or other regions of the world. The Iraq 2002 AUMF had nothing to do with bombings in Africa or Yemen, yet we used it to do that. So we should give parents a voice. We should give our soldiers a voice. And that's why Congress should have should utilize its constitutional war powers.
So, Congresswoman, you brought up the 2001 AUMF, and that was the AUMF that was passed after 9/11 to authorize the invasion of Afghanistan and to go after al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and those responsible for 9/11. And as you've alluded to, it's been used in 19 different countries, often against groups that didn't even exist on 9/11 and had no role in the attacks.
Right.
Now that American troops have left Afghanistan, do you think it's time to take a serious look at repealing the 2001 AUMF in addition to the 2002 AUMF?
Oh, 100%. I mean, as you said, it's been used and abused over the last 2 decades to go and have conflict or enter into war in other locations around the world. And we should have a voice. Congress should have a voice. We are elected representatives for our regions and our districts. We should give families and we should give our active duty military that same voice. And because of the abuses over the last years by all 4 administrations using it to enter into conflict elsewhere, we should have that power and authority back in Congress. So I support the repeal of the 2001 AUMF as well.
It's great to hear, and hopefully after we repeal the 2002 AUMF, we can start working on that. And I also hope too, like you, many of your colleagues start to realize that a lot of the failures that have occurred over the last 20 years is because Congress has neglected its constitutional
Yeah,
role.
we've totally abandoned our constitutional authority, power, and duty to make these decisions and then to end these conflicts as well. I mean, we've known for more than 20 years that that Afghanistan was going to be a problem. If we did go in there, we were going to lose that war. I mean, this goes back, 30, 40, 50 years, even when my father was in the military. These were all things everybody knew. And yet we decided to enter into that conflict and turn it into a forever war. And you had kids there serving that weren't even alive during 9/11. And look at the 13 soldiers that passed away. Many of them were just 20-year-old kids just out of boot camp. And the Gold Star families, I mean, it's just, my heart goes out to them. And I've been thinking about them for the last 7 days. And I hope that we will never forget the 13 lives that we lost last week.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember the real costs that these forever wars have. Well, Congresswoman, thank you so much for your time. Do you have any closing thoughts?
No, and appreciate you all bringing up this subject. My hope is that we learn lessons over the last 20 years, the abuses of war, where we've gone where we shouldn't have, that Congress will assert its constitutional authority and war powers. But we're seeing both sides of the aisle right now weaponize the conflict in Afghanistan, when really, truly, this is the fault and responsibility of Republicans and Democrats. And we have a duty not to politicize, not to weaponize war for political gain. And yet we're seeing that now. We're going to continue to see that in the weeks and months ahead, unfortunately. And this conflict, I think one of the reasons that it is so horrific for our veterans who served in Afghanistan, for the active duty families of those who are deployed. And I have family members who are deployed right now as a result of the exit from Afghanistan, family and friends, was that we botched this thing in terms of the timing during the peak fighting season of the Taliban. We did it backwards. We should have evacuated our civilians, our non-combatants and allies on the ground. We should have demolished or removed billions of dollars of equipment so it didn't get into the hands of terrorists, or not as much of it. And then our military could come out and perhaps phase it out of time like we have in other areas, so that we could do what we needed to do to exit in a very strategic manner and safer manner. And so, I'm not feeling that hopeful that we will learn these lessons, but I'm going to be a strong voice. And I encourage those who are watching today to support Republicans and Democrats in being that strong voice for our country and for our soldiers. They deserve to have a voice.
Well, thank you so much, Congresswoman. And thank you for all who are watching this for joining us today. If you want to learn more about Concerned Veterans for America, go to www.cv4a.org, or follow us on Facebook by searching Concerned Veterans for America, or follow us on Twitter @ConcernedVets. Thank you again, and have a good day.
Thank you.